none of it matters, but...
I was confused as to why it would matter, but okay.
Yeah. Whose podcast is it anyway, where the topics are made up and the points don't matter?
Yeah, exactly. You're listening to Dots, Lines, and Destinations, a travel podcast with hosts Stephen Seagraves, Fosma Moon, and Seth Miller. Hello, and welcome to episode 302 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. I'm Stephen Seagraves, joined by the usual criminals, Seth Miller, Fosma Moon. Gentlemen.
Good evening.
Stephen, I graciously and humbly accept your apology. It was unnecessary and truly a magnanimous gesture on your part. And what the fuck, man?
I'm sorry.
Nah, it's okay. I mean, I showed you a picture. It's 85 degrees in my office today, and if I stand up, it's 95. So, and that's with the air conditioner running finally.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible to me.
It's a heat wave.
Yeah, you stand up and you're in a different climate. Like it's
but if I go sit in this, it's in the attic. So if I go sit in the stairs, I think it's like 5 degrees cooler because the cold air goes down.
Yep.
But I've got a door, and so I close the door, and so the air gets trapped in those stairs. And so at the end of the night, I usually spend a few minutes just relaxing in the stairs before opening the door back into the sweatier outdoor area downstairs that doesn't have air conditioning, so I can run to the bedroom to fall asleep.
Oh, man.
So you have microclimates in your attic?
In my house, yeah, there's multiple microclimates. It's pretty awesome. I've been needing to get more like extensions to my climate stuff. And, like, add them as extra zones and report it to Weather Underground to really confuse forecasting globally.
Oh, my God.
Look, you guys know that weather forecasting globally has actually been hampered by all the airplanes being grounded, right?
Yeah, because they use that for, like, sit reps, right? And things like that.
They pull, like, jet stream data and things like that off the airplanes to figure out overall flows and such, or, like, on the globe. So the airplanes flying and report in their current climate data, and especially like winds and such, that becomes a big part of the overall forecast. And with all the planes grounded and fewer routes being flown and fewer flights, the data available is significantly less. And, you know, with statistics and such, you've got less good data. It's really hard to calculate it. So if I can help that problem by adding more data into the system, regardless of whether it's good data or not.
Oh, man. You're doing everybody a service.
Yeah, I should also warn you that I've refilled my cocktail this evening. So.
So I was going to say, is this weather better or worse than New York for you?
I mean, the weather in New York is also terrible right now, so there's that. But when we lived in New York, it never really, really got this bad. But the other thing to consider is that normally when it's this bad, I mean, this year in particular is worse than usual. It's just the number of days where it's been this hot is much higher, and the the upper edge has been higher, you know, the extremes. But normally we have a plan. We go to a movie or something else during the day, and then go out to dinner, and basically hop from air conditioning to air conditioning. You know, pretend we live in the South, essentially, and then come back and go to sleep. And we can't do that now because nothing is open.
Yeah. It makes it tough to try and manage the heat that way.
If this continues too much longer, I may actually, though, go buy a hotel room in town that has better air conditioning than my house does.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds terrible, man. I mean, those temps, it's bad.
The numbers are bad. Like I grew up in North Florida in, you know, the swamps there, and so like I'm used to. I'm familiar with hot. I'm not used to it anymore. It's been 25 years since I lived there, I guess. But
wait, you have open hotels near you?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I drove down Lex yesterday. It was really eerie to see the Marriott closed.
Yeah,
wow.
I can imagine.
How much stuff is open in New York now?
I mean, pretty much all the restaurants have outdoor seating. They've basically taken over the parking in front of the restaurants and just moved outside, which is a very pleasant experience on a garbage day.
That's how I want my meal.
Yeah.
With a side of warm trash.
Exactly.
Welcome to New York City, where we still haven't quite figured out how to deal with trash. Okay.
Oh, man. Well, we've got some news topics to talk about, and one of them is Foz's follow-up to the Northwest strike details that we talked about last show. And Foz, what's your general feeling on this? You had a lot of people disagreeing with you or correcting you.
My point was that they busted an individual union. I didn't say they got rid of all of the ground crew. And if that's how it came off, then I apologize, but that wasn't the intent at all. I was trying to recollect something from 15 years ago in the back of my head.
And we don't have a producer, so...
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I try, but I'm not as good as you And Seth did point out the fact.
I managed to find the year, but that was about all. I didn't try that hard. All I cared about was the year. My Google searching was much more limited than it probably needed to be.
So I'm guessing the people who are mad were the former Northwest Flyers that just have a really strong desire to be right about it. I don't know.
There's also, let's be clear, there's something to be said for getting the details right, and we do try.
Correct.
But
sometimes we screw up.
Yeah, it wasn't even something we planned to talk about, right? It was just something that came up in conversation. So I remember it happening. I didn't remember all the details.
So I think we'll try and research a little more next time. Face covering rules are getting more serious. So airlines are actually kicking people off and banning people. And
supposedly the Delta plane turned around the other day.
Went
back to the origin because people weren't wearing masks. I'm surprised. I actually got an email from a mutual friend of ours. He responded to me over the weekend that's on June 8th. I wrote, he asked me about masks, in my opinion. And on June 8th, I wrote to him, quote, "The airlines don't want that fight, and the FAs absolutely do not want that fight. Very unlikely, in my opinion, that we'll see anything more than what was already in place." And I was wrong. The airlines stepped up, and we had Delta saying it was 100 or 120 or 130 passengers banned now through the end of mask wearing requirements, and potentially with this plane turning around, we have JetBlue's banned people confirmed, Americans confirmed, I think United's confirmed, so Alaska, they're all actually doing it, which is a little surprising to me. On the other hand, I kind of wonder if this was a flight attendant union situation where they're like, you're putting us in a high-risk environment, you have to take our back. You got to support us. You have our back on this one. Right? Because other than that, does the airline really care, was my theory. And I guess they could argue that if too many people are not wearing masks, then, if 10% of passengers don't want to wear masks and 90% do, will the 10% scare off the other 90%? And probably, to an extent. But
so here's my question about this. So I've read some accounts from Alaska flyers that certain flights, they don't enforce it, other flights they do.
Well, it still depends on the flight attendant. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think, maybe the flight attendant doesn't want to get in someone's face, doesn't want to have a confrontation.
Well, the flight attendants can give you a yellow card, though.
Yeah, okay. Just before this call, Foz sent me a text and said, would you fly Alaska to New York, or would you fly JetBlue from, Mint? And I said JetBlue.
Especially Mint, yeah.
Yeah. For multiple reasons. I think JetBlue would probably be better. I think they have a culture that would say the mask thing, you have to wear a mask. I don't feel like you're going to be guaranteed that on Alaska necessarily.
And especially in Mint, JetBlue is also blocking the seats, and so you're guaranteed a very large amount of space.
Yeah. So there you go, Fuzz.
So wait, they're blocking the aisle seats in Mint?
Yep. Or they were, last I checked.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, there's no one really buying the tickets anyways, so...
It's under $400. It's ridiculous.
Right, that was your Newark, LA, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a new market for them.
Are
they're definitely trying to make it work. They're also, they've canceled and scaled back a lot of the new routes. They haven't canceled any, but they've scaled back some of the frequencies just because, since they announced them, New York went back on quarantine, so inbound.
Foz, are you, actually thinking of traveling soon?
I actually bought a ticket today.
For New York, LA?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is this like a Steven buying a ticket where you're just going to refund it tomorrow, or is this actually buying a ticket?
Oh, shut up.
Actually, I bought LA Newark. I haven't bought Newark LA yet. Now I actually need to go out there. So I will actually have to take the trip. I don't think returning it tomorrow will be a reality. And amazingly, United even had PZ space open.
Well, they're flying 737s most of the time, right?
No. Newark, LA, there's a 7810, there's a 777-200, and a 763 and two 75s.
Wow.
Yeah, they pulled the 75, the PS7, or not the PS75s, though. Those are dead, or gone. They pulled the 16F or 16J 75s back out of the desert.
Gotcha. Wow. So when's this trip, Foz?
End of August.
Okay. We'll need a full report then, because it sounds like you'll be the first one to travel out of us.
I wanted to throw another thing up there about the face masks. There's an interesting sort of split between how the airlines have approached their increased enforcement. And so United, Delta, American, Southwest, Alaska, JetBlue, they've all said, no, really, we're requiring it now. Mm-hmm. I think last week, 4 of them, American, Southwest, Delta, and United, reiterated, no, really, we mean it, wear a mask. And Delta and United raised it as, they all say now it's required from when you enter the building to when you leave, not just when you're on board. And Delta and United said, if you have a problem with that, talk to us and we'll see what we can do. I think Delta's version of it is you actually get put on a phone call with the company doctor and they decide if they think that you're safe to fly. And this is, I guess, supposed to get around the HIPAA concerns because it's a doctor that you have to talk to. I don't know. But American and Southwest have apparently just simply said, if you can't wear a mask, you won't be on our planes. And there's some concern from the disabled community that there are people with legitimate reasons for not wearing masks that are now going to get screwed by this. And I feel like a little bit this is sort of the service animal situation where too many people abused it and now people who actually need it maybe don't get to use it because of that. But it was an interesting angle on the conversation of, are there people who really can't wear masks that otherwise should be able to fly?
Well, based on the things I've seen people in videos saying, one, it's carbon monoxide that we're breathing in because we're wearing a mask. I don't know that I trust anyone's opinion for their medical reasons. I'm putting quotes around that. I mean, I'm sure there are people with legitimate problems, issues, asthma, disabilities, etc. But, I mean, when you have people just refusing to wear a mask or wearing a crocheted mask with giant holes in it, it kind of defeats.
Those are pretty awesome. Did you see the comment on that? I was like, this pattern's actually really hard. I don't know why anyone would try to make it. Someone wrote it.
So for the airlines to say we're not going to accept you at all, that's a stretch. I mean, that's a big move by them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how long before someone decides to just poke the bear and wear a hazmat suit on board?
I think we've seen it already, though.
Yeah.
People have been wearing full hazmat suits, and
I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, there's pictures out there floating around of people wearing crazy stuff. So, yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting angle on it, though. The conversation around, people with legitimate disabilities, and I guess the question is, is every airline obligated to accommodate those? And I think the answer is actually probably yes, but I'm not sure from the ADAA. I just don't know. It was an interesting counterpoint to the please stop. Yeah, please make sure you're wearing a mask. We're just not putting up with the BS anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, how? Okay, so now you've got to. This person's got to tell whoever's in the airport multiple times, "Oh, I don't have to wear one. I have a disability."
Right.
Which is even more invasive, I think, than compared to.
Maybe you get a green card to walk around with.
Well, you laugh about that, but there are. I want to say it's Heathrow, maybe, has a program where if you have like a hidden disability, you can ask at an information desk for a lanyard that has like sunflowers on it, I think. And you wear the lanyard and all the employees know that if you see someone with this, there's a reason that they need extra assistance or extra time and to like appropriately respond. So there are some programs at airports to try to deal with that sort of thing. Obviously, ramping something like that up in this circumstance is, harder. But there's some cool systems out there.
Yeah. Brussels is getting a CBP pre-clearance station. Just kind of random news. Like, wasn't expecting that.
It's it would not have been the first one I selected.
I mean
it's an easy one, right? There's only 6 destinations to the US that fly out of there?
Yeah, I think so. It's something small. Yeah.
Yeah, very small, right? So it's an easy one.
I just wonder how they're going to do it, because right now they have the international terminal. I guess they're just going to designate some gates as pre-clearance. And
just same way they do the African flights, where they close off part of the end of the terminal in the evening.
Would CBP accept that, though? Like, right? I did the walkthrough when they opened up CBP at JFK T5, when JetBlue opened that up. And the number of extra facilities that CBP requires is impressive, to say the least. Like, there's a full courtroom available. Like, secured, heavy concrete, rebar, reinforced space that, listening devices can't get in, kind of thing. Like, they've essentially got a prison built into the terminal just in case.
So in Stockholm, they just took the end of one of the piers and there was a glass wall.
Well, that's not pre-clearance.
Yeah, it was.
When?
A couple of years ago when I flew it.
You had CBP or you had security?
I thought it was maybe. No, you might be right.
It's like Frankfurt, where you walk down to the end of the Z gates. And
yeah. You're right. I'm confused. I'm thinking of Dublin and mixing Dublin up with. But Dublin, the old Dublin, right, was downstairs in that little. There was
nothing. Still is.
No. Well, in the old building. Now it's got the new building.
Okay.
But the old building was literally like one of the old rotundas at Newark, where it was just downstairs. You'd go downstairs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it can be done. It would be there's the level to which CBP has, I'll say, escalated or enhanced to those facilities lately. Makes me wonder how.
And I don't think that the Africa flights in Brussels are like that anymore. I don't think it's a temporary closure. It's now permanent. So you can only access the club if you're on the Africa flights. You can really only access the terminal technically if you have an Africa flight on a ticket. I mean, I accidentally did it with a friend of ours, and then we were turned away at the terminal. So, so I don't know. I mean, I guess they could use the Africa terminal technically and just cut off like part of that section and make it permanently CBP.
They only need like 3 gates.
Yeah,
and there's timing on. Right, I mean, the Africa flights leave relatively early. The U.S. flights probably leave afterwards. There might be enough of a gap that they can make it work.
Yep.
Do the Africa flights leave in the morning or the evening?
When I did it, it was morning.
Yeah, I think for the most part they time with the U.S. connections.
Yeah, it's daytime down, evening back, or red eye back.
Yep.
But anyway.
I mean, it's random to me, I feel like. I just like...
More random than Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, true. Touche, sir.
Does Abu Dhabi, I mean, at the time when things were really running, Abu Dhabi probably had more seats.
Mm-hmm. With 77Ws and stuff everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt it probably had more seats. It probably still has more seats, right? When you think about it, what are the flights out of Brussels? You've got 3, 4 United flights? 3?
And you've got Brussels Air to Chicago, JFK, Dulles.
Do they even do Chicago?
I say what's running right now. That's
Oh, yeah. I don't know what's running.
Knowing that none of this is actually going to operate, this isn't happening this year, I sort of get, like, planning ahead and whatever. But it's interesting. It's also worth noting that Brussels Air Airlines got its bailout.
So they're not going to be sold completely to
The
Lufthansa?
state? No.
Or the state, yeah.
Yeah, no, Lufthansa's keeping their portion, and the state's chipping in some cash. But also, Lufthansa is launching a, quote, Ocean, unquote, which is their newer version of what was the CityLine long haul, I guess. And it's going to be some new weird long haul, low cost carrier-ish operation, but it's going to be operated by Brussels Airlines now rather than a separate company. So who knows what the hell's going on there?
Just what we don't need, right?
Another new long haul, low cost carrier?
Yeah, in the time of pandemic, especially.
So, wait a minute. Brussels was going to be the low cost carrier, then they decided they're not going to do that, but they're going to start another low cost carrier, which is going to be run by Brussels?
Right.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Well, the difference is, though, that Lufthansa will use those planes from Lufthansa destinations, from German hubs, not just from Brussels.
But weren't they going to do that anyways with the low-cost Brussels when they were going to converting Brussels into low-cost carrier last year?
Fine. Honestly, I don't remember. That was a long time ago, and this rum is delicious.
So, I mean, with them operating, basically, how much of this is going to take Brussels operations, right? Like, are they dropping some of the Africa flights to supplement this new low-cost carrier?
Do you think they need to drop anything?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that it's not like they have a bunch of planes just sitting around, or did.
They actually do right now. But remember, they were also getting planes from Eurowings, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they can, German wing? I mean, long haul would be CityLine planes, but it's unclear which of those are going to keep operating. But, yeah, I mean, things are going to move around. That's part of why all these mega groups have the multiple different operators, right? Is they can move the aircraft around amongst their different individual AOCs, airline operating certificates, or the different companies to maximize value and reduce cost.
Well, if they're going to operate a low cost carrier, can they at least fly to Portland?
No.
You're going to fly a low
Condor
cost
did.
carrier. Wait, you're going to fly a low cost carrier out of Portland?
If it gets me nonstop to Europe out of here, yes, and I can use United miles on it. Yes,
Even if they don't have business?
I'm sure it'll have like
They're gonna have
business
business.
class. Yeah, they'll have a business class.
Reclining business?
No, I bet it's flatbeds.
Okay.
I bet there's fewer of them. That's what the CityLine long haul was, right? It's a much smaller business class cabin for leisure markets.
But they didn't have lie flats.
No?
Lufty doesn't have lie flats.
Lufty does.
Yes, they do.
Now, on some of the planes, not on all of them.
No, they've all
do.
been converted now. All the A330s, yeah, all the A330s and 346s have been converted. So
I guess it's been a while since I've been on Lufty.
yeah. Emirates is offering COVID insurance to all passengers.
Built into your ticket price.
Lovely. How much is this going to add to my ticket price?
You're not going to find Emirates anyways on a cash ticket, are you?
Maybe. I don't know.
Higher. Sorry. No, At this point, it's basically, there's two takes on it. One is it's a loss leader to get people in the seats and it doesn't matter. The second take is that there's enough different reasons it doesn't really work anyways that it probably doesn't help you as a consumer. So,
what does the insurance actually cover?
So the gist of it is if you are hit with COVID-19 related medical expenses or quarantine costs, other than a mandatory quarantine that is imposed by the country on arrival that you knew about when you left. So, like, if you test positive and they force you to quarantine, they'll cover it. If you just, because you're going to country X, you are required to quarantine, they won't. They cover all of that. They cover repatriation, including changing your flights. I'm just reading through this here. Hospital costs up to 150,000 euros. Accommodation costs related to quarantine up to €100 per day, and funeral costs up to 1,500 euros are among the things. So it's really funny to read the exclusions where it says that events that may exclude it are pandemics and epidemics, except as expressly covered under the sections. So it's it's the standard clause except for these. But the other interesting one is if you travel against your national government's advice as a destination. So if you're for a Brit and the FCO says don't go to these countries and you go anyways, you're excluded. For example. So there's a lot of holes in it, but it's an interesting approach to trying to get people back on planes.
Do you think it's going to work? Do you think you'll see people see this insurance policy and go, I can get on a plane now?
I don't think there's a lot of people saying, gosh, I'm not going to fly because what if I'm forced to quarantine while I'm there? Right? There's a lot of people saying, I don't want to go somewhere because what if I'm forced to quarantine when I come home? Mm-hmm. There's people saying, I don't want to fly because I'm worried about getting sick on the road or any of those other things. But I don't think, and I guess sick on the road, this would cover you. But all this does is cover the expenses, not the fact that you're now stuck in a foreign hospital dealing with having COVID. So
yeah.
Probably not great.
I mean, it's a novel idea. I don't see it adding much benefit.
Yeah, but it was a great press release.
Yeah, I got an interesting email from Emirates actually that was like, "Oh, we're offering a bunch of stuff for you when you're on the plane to be safe, and we're putting our flight attendants in." They had a flight attendant in all this garb, medical garb, and they're like, "Yeah, and we're going to offer you a cover for your face. We're going to offer you a cover for all your clothing." I was just like, "Wow, okay." It's nice. I still don't think I want to fly right now.
Right, so this is a really big problem for the industry is what will it take for the the passenger to feel comfortable on board? And it's both physically comfortable and health comfortable. And Delta has said multiple times recently that they're blocking middle seats, not necessarily... in the press releases, they've said it's for medical reasons. In the less press released versions, they've said it's because passengers feel more comfortable that way. It's not that you're actually necessarily safer, but that's what how our passengers feel more comfortable. And until they're past that, we're going to keep doing this because we think it's helping us sell tickets. Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting challenge for the industry of what does it take for a passenger to feel comfortable, and how are they going to get more people on planes buying fares? And if it's because all the flight attendants are fully hazmated up, okay. I was in a discussion on Twitter. I was like, yeah, if I see the flight attendant wearing that shit, I'm going to think that I shouldn't be here because it's clearly not safe for all of us to be in this space together. And some people agreed, some people disagreed. It's Twitter, so it was very a civil and calm conversation, as you might imagine.
Of course, yes, always.
But
based on the responses for Foz's Northwest strike, yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. I think there's a lot of throw a bunch against the wall and see what sticks going on right now amongst the entire industry. And I got two briefings on Tuesday to listen to. We're recording this on Monday. I've got two different, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday for IATA, and the Wings Club, and this and that, talking about similar things, and what is it going to get better anytime soon, and how are the airlines dealing with it? And the mask thing that we talked about earlier was clearly because they're trying to make more passengers feel more comfortable on planes, and if they can afford to get rid of the 10% who don't want to wear masks in favor of the 90% who absolutely demand that everybody else around them does.
Mm. But how much does all this actually help the airlines, right, without the business traveler?
I think at this point they're just trying to stay afloat.
But can they stay afloat on leisure traveler is the question.
It depends on the airline.
Allegiant, sure, but the majors, right? They're very dependent on business travel, and like Bastian's saying that he wants to break even by the end of the year. I don't really see business travel returning until there's a vaccine.
Well, Google just announced that they're going to have work from home available through the middle of next year, so who knows?
And on top of this, right, like Ethiopian is now requiring...
Oh, I typed that wrong. I'm sorry. That's supposed to be Etihad. EY.
Oh, Etihad.
Sorry, I typed it wrong. I can fix it real time.
Etihad is requiring a negative test before boarding their flights. And we've talked about testing before, and a lot of tests are done like a day or two before, you know,
So
you need, because
the
it takes
Etihad
long.
test is within 96 hours.
Yep.
So they actually give you a relatively large window, unless you're in the United States, where the turnaround time is 10 to 14 days. Unless you happen to be a professional sports athlete.
And you can get it same day.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool because you get tested and then give it to all your teammates, and then baseball season's canceled.
Yeah, that was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, we got like, 6 games in?
Yep.
If that?
Oh, man. So, I mean, Etihad's going to require this negative test. I guess if you buy a ticket and you test positive, will they refund? Have they said?
I don't know. The only news I've seen on that I remember, and I would imagine the answer is yes, but the only, right, because it's not like you're going to go out of your way to get COVID to get out of a plane ticket. And it would be hard to, in some sense, depending on where you live, obviously. In the United States, it's actually pretty easy. But in, the closest I saw to that was in the U.S., the U.S. carriers all agreed, or the ones that are members of Airlines for America all agreed that if the DHS, if TSA implemented temperature checks, that anyone who was denied boarding because they failed a temperature check would have their ticket refunded. No questions asked. Or, yeah, few questions asked. And I don't know if you guys saw, actually, and I didn't put this in the notes, but Southwest actually installed its own thermo scanners in Love Field in Dallas. And the quote on that was, yes, we're trying to demonstrate to the TSA how easy and effective it would be, so that they'll take over doing this, or something to that effect.
Well, that'll work out well.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm pretty soon I'll just go to the TSA for my medical exams.
They would love to do that.
Be careful, man. I've seen some press releases that are real interesting.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Walk through, like, full biometrics, you know, the full workup, all the stuff that happens before the doctor gets into the room, all on a walk-through machine. Blood pressure, pulse ox, temperature, weight, like, and a face. Yeah, and, well, I mean, that's been happening for years now. But, like, and tie that to a picture of your face that's tied to the facial recognition database so they know which passenger you are.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So much for privacy.
Yeah. That ship sailed a long time ago.
So, I mean, it's great that they're trying to keep their passengers safe with the test, if you can get the test done in time, right?
And I think that's mostly a U.S. thing. The inability to get tests results in a reasonable time frame is mostly a U.S.
Yep. So, I mean, I guess good on Etihad for requiring that. I'm surprised we haven't seen more carriers say something similar.
It's also in line with the IATA push, and I think they're trying to get ICAO to do the same thing, of saying we want to essentially make air travel in and of itself a clean bubble, which we've talked about a little bit before. Where, like, if you check everybody before they get in to the system, then there's a very good chance that everybody inside is clean, and your concerns about mask wearing drop. Now, you still ask for it because it matters, but maybe not as much if you know that everybody has already tested negative, right? And so you get a little more leeway and a little more flexibility for all those things if you can pull it off.
Yeah, because, I mean, even so, like, are we going to see passengers suing airlines because if someone does have COVID on a plane and gets the person next to them sick, are people going to sue the airlines? I would say in America that's a very real possibility.
Right, in America, you're going to sue everybody, aren't you?
Well, yeah. How else do I become an instant millionaire? Anyway, so I mean, but I could see that.
65% of a millionaire. Come on, there's commission, there's fees to be paid.
True, but you know what I mean, though. Is like, I could totally see that happening where, you know, a passenger gets sick and they say, "Well, I got this from this flight. I'm suing the airline because it's their fault. They didn't ensure my safety."
But how do you prove you got on a particular flight?
I don't know. This is where contact tracing would really come in handy. But yeah.
So is that why we're not doing contact tracing?
No, I'm not going to go down the conspiracy road with you.
Well, fine.
I
think you just took his fun away.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, like what I can see the average American passenger doing if they became infected with COVID. My opinion of what would happen.
Yeah.
So, what about One World Upgrade Awards? There's been rumors of this coming. And part of it's with Alaska's entry into One World before the end of the year, which is the plan right now. What's the story, Seth?
So the version of it I saw was reading a story from Brett Cranky Flyer. Basically, he did an interview with some folks from One World and from Alaska Airlines, and one of the big sort of positives that Alaska mentioned as why they wanted to join was upgrades. And it was like, and he was like, "Wait, what?" And the answer is upgrades. And right now, there is not a cross-alliance upgrade program, but it's been reported many times to be coming, and there is, the quote, Rob, who is I'm not forgetting his name, Rob Gurney, who is the One World CEO, confirming, quote, he told me that the expectation is that the upgrade program should be functioning around the time Alaska comes online later this year, end quote. No details on what that includes. I'm guessing it's going to look a lot like Star Alliance upgrade awards, so be mostly useless, but that's just because I'm not a business traveler on high fares.
Yeah, it'll probably, if it's like the Star Alliance, it's going to be extremely, almost full fare tickets that are eligible for the mileage upgrades.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you still pay, and then you still have to find the reward space and everything else. So, listen, good on them for trying. Whatever it is, I will say it's offering anything, even if it's something that I can't use or that I think is mostly useless, is still better than not offering it. That doesn't make it great, but it makes it better than nothing.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that Alaska will be able to wrap up their joining of One World before the end of the year? You think that's reasonable?
Ish. All right. It's mostly IT work. Yep. I feel like in all of these things, they got to negotiate a lot of contracts. Okay, fine. Generally speaking, that comes down to boilerplate stuff that you sort of lather, rinse, repeat across all the airlines, especially within an alliance, because there's just not a lot of flexibility in terms of how it comes together. Mm-hmm. But separate from that, there's the discussion about, can you get all the systems integrated? And as a group, the big three alliances have been working towards sort of middleware platforms where you plug in once and you get access to everybody rather than plugging into each individual partner. I'm not sure that they're fully there yet, so it does slow things down a little bit. And then it becomes a question of, which employee groups got furloughed and how much priority does Alaska place on this happening. But it's possible, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've seen some questions people asking about, what's the frequent flyer program going to look like? Are we going to see another tier? And I'm kind of like, let's just wait and see.
Does it need another tier? Because they need to have a One World. I forget which order the gems go in, but there's three of them, right? Emerald, Sapphire, and Ruby. Yeah,
I don't think that they need another tier, but I think that what you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of American flyers potentially abandoning ship and flying Alaska if they can to get Emerald, because it takes 75,000 miles
instead of
100,000.
Yeah, and the spend and everything else.
Yeah.
Wouldn't those same passengers have already abandoned ship for a different airline already? Did I say already twice in that sentence?
That's a good point.
Right? Like, could they not have? I don't know what the right answer is. Would they not have already gone to BA or someone else?
Yeah, that's a good point. Foz, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really.
It's not like BMI, right?
Oh. Yeah, no. I think the biggest thing. Maybe
or is
Alaska. Well, I don't think so.
That was an off-the-cuff sort of glib remark, but does Alaska suddenly become the BMI of One World, as BMI was to Star Alliance, this weird, much easier to earn top-tier status environment?
I could honestly see Alaska going to a revenue-based system sometime in the near future. I think it'll piss a lot of people off, but I think it's realistic.
You think so, though?
Yeah, I think so, Foz, simply because, why not?
I would say that if they were to go revenue base, it would only be for partner flights, not Alaska Metal.
That would make sense. Do you think it would push people away if they went revenue based? It's like, okay, well, why not just fly American then?
Well, I think part of it is, right? Remember, most of Alaska's flights are short.
Yeah.
Right, so it would make it very hard to earn status, and they don't want to disenfranchise their people in Seattle and Portland.
Hard to earn because of 500-mile minimums, then? Or, I guess...
Well, and just price of flights, too, right?
Yeah, because there's so much competition on the West, right? So there's not a lot of premium you're charging people. So I think that'll impact things a lot. And that's so just
too many $79 flights, essentially.
Exactly. So just like they have two tiers of earning criteria, one for Alaska only and one for Alaska Plus partners, I'd put money on the fact that for the partners, they'd start putting a revenue minimum, but not their own.
Mm-hmm. You meant two redemption tiers, not earning.
They have two earning tiers as well, right?
Yeah, they have two earning tiers.
Oh, for status?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you were talking about awards. I know their partner awards thing gets really weird.
No. If you earn, if I earned only through Cathay flying or BA flying, I have to earn more miles. So instead of 75,000, I have to earn 90,000. So, yep.
It goes both ways. I just remember that their partner awards are usually weirdly priced, and there's especially, and it varies by partner.
Yeah, it varies by partner. You can only have one partner on an award. You can't mix partners. But yeah, because they're on...
That'll change, though.
Maybe?
Right, there's going to have to be a One World award.
Right, there'll be a One World award, but can you tag on all the other non-One World partners? Probably not.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's how that's going to work, because, like, say, the most efficient way to get from JFK to Hong Kong, that's if you can't find anything on the nonstop, might be Finnair. Will they actually sell that? Because they won't sell that to you now. They restrict a lot of their awards based on geography.
That's a pretty big stretch. That assumes Finnair would open up award space.
Touche. But you know what I mean? Like they restrict right now. You can't go to Asia via Europe.
Well, even American does that.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah, they all have restrictions.
American's super weirdly restrictive.
Yeah. I didn't realize that.
And like India to the U.S. can only be trans-Pacific on American or via
Doha.
Qatar.
Either Doha or Abu Dhabi.
No, it's only Doha, because I try to be Abu Dhabi. Or if it's Abu Dhabi, then it's got to be on a nonstop back to the United States. You can't go through Europe.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. There's a lot of weird restrictions that make United's old rules look simple, and United's old rules were nothing close to simple.
Oh, man. Last up is Go Air India is essentially offering a private plane experience?
Ish.
Kinda?
Kinda. They're calling it Go Fly Private. So Go Air India is one of the smaller airlines in India, but they're decent size, I guess. And as the market is coming back, and we're sort of tying into our earlier conversation, what does it take for you to feel comfortable? Do you need an extra seat next to you? Well, buying an empty seat next to you is relatively easy on a lot of airlines, right? There's a syntax matters, but you basically put in the seat, the passenger name is extra seat / Miller or whatever it is. Go Air is taking that a step further and with what they're calling Go Fly Private, where you email them and tell them what flight you want to be on, and you tell them how much space you want. And if you want a row in front of you and a row behind you blocked, you can buy 9 seats. Just for you. And they will... It's not something that you can just do online. It's not an easy purchase. You have to email them and tell them what you want, and then they get back to you and tell you what it's going to cost, and you complete the transaction. It's not a quick process. It's more like, if you can think about buying like group tickets, where you go through a sales agent and this and that. But the idea, again, of like, what can we do to make this ticket, make this passenger comfortable? If you want to buy out, and maybe you're traveling with, family, and you want to buy a row for you to sit in and then block the row ahead of you and behind you to make your sort of, 30 inches forward and backward, 1 meter of spacing. I don't know. You can do that. I think part of me just think it's like silly and bizarre, but also I sort of get it. If you're trying to make passengers feel more comfortable, why wouldn't you give them the option to buy as many? And also, like, in a lot of cases, like, if they can't sell the seats anyways, why not give them an opportunity to just sell them as blocked?
Yeah. Yeah, if they're not gonna be able to, sell that seat as sold, they'll just sell it as an empty seat and charge a little less or whatever. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, right? Like, generally when you buy extra seats, you can't earn miles on them, and if you can, it's only redeemable. Sure. Why not use this as an opportunity to let folks earn miles as well?
In a conversation I had a couple weeks back, probably 5 or 6 weeks ago now, we were having a conversation about loyalty programs and how they could play in this era of, new travel. And it was right around the time that Frontier had gotten so much shit for trying to sell empty seats as a cash thing. And my comment was, you can't have blocked seats forever, but why not offer a redemption of block the seat next to me at a slight discount to the normal award seat price? And it has to be, maybe it has to be accompanied by a cash ticket, so there's still real money coming in, not just paper money on the books, some things like that. But I'm all in favor of coming up with creative ways to make that extra seat smart for the business.
I mean, I'd gladly buy an extra seat or two, and if I could earn miles on it.
Foz is thinking ahead. He's playing the long game.
Target.
I'll buy half the cabin on a 7-8.
Yeah, at what price?
Well, right now there's $26 Newark to LA fares.
So
okay,
half price, $13.
I'll buy them all.
At 26, I'd pay full price.
Wait, at $26 each, you could buy 50, and it would be like $1,000.
Yeah, just don't let anyone sit. Don't let anyone sit in my 2 entire rows, 3 entire rows.
3 entire rows. I would like the C-Zone mini cabin. Thank you. And I'll be back half of the aircraft. The flight attendants will not be allowed back here either.
I will be taking my dinner in those seats right there, and I will be making a bed there. Oh man! And you can, do your stretching in the aisle all on your own,
with or without pants.
So, yeah.
That's UA yes pants to counter your LH no pants situation. I'm glad we had that moment right there, Foz. That makes me feel very warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, timing was perfect. If only Rolo was here.
One of these days, we'll get him back.
Hey, he'd have to come off the boat.
Yeah, and it's summer.
It'll be the fall. It'll be fine after the boat goes back into storage.
You guys have any other thoughts? Anything else you want to talk about? No?
No.
Sweet. Well, to our listeners, thank you for listening. If you'd like to become a Patreon subscriber and get the content a little early, you can go to Patreon and look us up, Dots, Lines, and Destinations. We also have a link on the website. Or you can follow us on Twitter, ask us a question. Maybe we'll answer it on air. We're at Dots, Lines, more dots, more lines.com. Thanks for listening. Happy travels soon.
Take care.
It's more like eventually, but I'll go with it.
It's strange. I don't even miss traveling right now. It's really weird.